Welcome to the Startup Sessions, the #1 web show and podcast for trusting your gut, breaking the rules, and starting something meaningful, featuring in-depth interviews with acclaimed creative entrepreneurs that have succeeded at building their own remarkable businesses. I'm your host, Michael Knouse, and I'm very excited today to have Laurel Staples from the popular blog and podcast called Go Fire Yourself. Laurel is going to be talking about firing yourself from your corporate job because that's exactly what she did for herself a few years ago. And she's also going to share her real-life experience about what it really takes to start a successful small business and to get it off the ground. And not just any kind of business, but one that's going to give you an element of lifestyle freedom. So if you're ready to do what it takes to quit your day job and create a business you love, then this is the episode for you. It's all coming to you right now on episode 15 of the Startup Sessions. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Startup Sessions. I'm Michael Knouse, and today I'm super excited to have Laurel Staples with me today. Laurel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. I am thrilled to be here today.
I'm thrilled to have you, and we've had some technical difficulties, so we've just got Laurel's wonderful voice with us today, despite the fact that she got all pretty for us to get on video, and things just didn't happen that way. So happy to have you here and hear your lovely voice. Laurel is from Nashville, Tennessee. And really the reason I asked her to be a guest on the Startup Sessions is because I heard a podcast. I heard Laurel's podcast probably a week or two ago. And you know what? She's got a really unique and strong message. And I love her blog, her podcast, and I think it's something that's going to resonate really strongly with my audience. So Laurel is a great combination of straight talk, humor, and just enough edginess to really spice up the whole topic of leaving a corporate job so that you can get on with the business that you've always wanted to build. And the name of Laurel's blog and podcast is called Go Fire Yourself. And I love that name. And I would highly encourage everyone to check out what she has going on at gofireyourself.com. And I'll link that up here in the show notes. So Laurel, let's just jump right into it. Tell us what's caused you, I know this was a few years ago, but what caused you to purposefully quit a great corporate job as an engineer and embark on this path of entrepreneurship?
Well, yeah, thanks, Michael. That's obviously a great question. I appreciate your intro. I did get dressed halfway up today, so because I knew I was going to be on video, but I still got my sweatpants on because I work from home. So I tried for you, but yeah, well, it did. It started years ago. I got my corporate job. I got out of college, had a mechanical engineering degree, and got my corporate job designing color laser printers in 2004. And immediately, I knew I wasn't a good fit for the corporate world. But sometimes you know things, and it just takes your brain just a minute to kind of catch up with what's going on. Because I kept thinking, why am I not a good fit for this? Like, other people seem fine with this, and I'm just unhappy day in and day out. And you're young, you're 22 at that age when you get out of college, and you just think, well, maybe I should just suck it up. Like, this is the real world. Just deal with it. Yeah. So I did. I dealt with it for about 3 years. But I was not happy during that time. And so I decided that I wanted to get out of this world. And the way I decided that I wanted to do it was starting a retail store. And the retail store idea, it came because it played to a lot of my different passions. I opened an eco-friendly retail store. So it was environmentally friendly, it was sustainable, it was fair trade. It was just a lot of cool things, and with fashion and all that good stuff. So it was a really good fit for me. But I decided that was going to be my way to get out of the corporate world. And I started planning it about a year before I left. And then finally, when I found a retail location to put this store in, I was able to quit my job and exit corporate America forever. So that was a scary and great time in my life.
Yeah. So you went for it. You went straight from a corporate job to, I'm guessing, probably one of the harder things to start, which would be a retail, like brick and mortar business.
You're exactly right. Is one of the problems that I had when I was going through this time of being miserable is that I didn't see anybody else doing anything entrepreneurial related. I didn't have any friends that were doing it. I didn't have any family members that were doing it. And I was so naive at that point. I didn't know there were resources available. I didn't know there were books out there. I didn't even know what to do. I just knew I didn't want what I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only thing I really saw was physical stores around me. I was like, well, I could start a restaurant or a catering business or a store or something like that. And so I just didn't know a lot of options, and the retail store seemed to play to a lot of my strengths and interests. So, but it was not a choice I would make again. There is so much overhead with a business like that you're really putting a lot on the line when you start something like that.
Sure. The point is you did something. You started, and I think a lot of people who start something on the side, whether they end up just quitting their corporate job right away or not, you figure things out, and you just figured out one way that you eventually, from your story, I've heard your story before. I know that you ended up shutting down that retail business and moving your business and your skills in a different direction. Tell us a little bit about how that transition of shutting down your retail operation and moving to more the direction of, being an online entrepreneur and doing the things that you're doing now.
Yeah, that's an interesting story because every time you make a transition in your life, it's never really pretty. It's never really what you think it's going to be. So whether you're quitting a job to go work for yourself or whether you're transitioning from one business to another, it's not always pretty. And you have to dive in and you have to do it and you have to learn from that. So my retail store, I ended up launching it the year the economy kind of crashed. That was December 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Or the month, that was like the month the recession started, I heard in retrospect. So that was a little scary. After 2 years of running it, it was going okay, but it just didn't work out for a couple reasons. And one of those was, I believe that you can make anything work out if you really try, but I felt like I had moved on by that point.
Mm-hmm.
I was ready to do something else. And so it took me a minute to figure out what else I wanted to do, but it was still in that same kind of line of a kind of a holistic environment, kind of that kind of thing. And I went into becoming a health coach. So I became a certified health coach. And what I loved about this business, and one of the reasons that I chose it, aside from the fact that it played to, again, a lot of my strengths, was that it didn't have any overhead. I mean, you could work with clients on the phone or meet them in person, and you didn't have to buy inventory. You didn't have to rent a huge retail space. You didn't have to market in the same ways that you would market a retail store with expensive advertising or PR agents or anything like that. So that was a really appealing next step for me. And what I learned there is that there's always a plan B. When I was having to close my retail store, I was not thrilled about it. I mean, it was a hard time for me. And I always thought, if I don't do this, there's nothing else I can do. I can do nothing else. And it just takes a little bit of time to figure out, there is a plan B. There's always a plan B, and you can do something. So I got into the online, well, it wasn't really fully online. It was in Nashville, and then I worked with some people on the phone, and I got into that world, and I figured out that what I really enjoyed was when I was working with these women, a lot of them had their own businesses, and most of them had it on the side of their day job, and they're working all the time, and they wanted to go full-time with their business. And that's what I became really passionate about, as I'd always been passionate about business, but it was once we set up the health foundation with these women, we'd go into talking about their businesses, and I became almost kind of a business coach. And that's what struck me as this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to help people live out their dreams, create the life and the healthy lifestyle that they want, because when you're miserable, you can't be healthy. And so that's really what that's how Go Fire Yourself got started, and how I got into the online world, because I wanted to take that message to a broader audience than just Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay. I love it. Now, and I love the fact that, we're talking about the progression of yourself as an entrepreneur, because you started something, it wasn't quite, the fit for you, but you started and you learned a lot through that. And then you went to plan B, which was your health coaching. And then through that ended up even getting, it sounds like, more clarity through your health coaching business as to what you really wanted to do. So it's just great to like feature the progression of things, you know. I think a lot of people think, oh, I got to choose the perfect business. I got to do everything right. I got to go into it. And that is very rarely the way that it works out. So I'm appreciating your story here and how it's led you to the success you're having today.
Well, Michael, you're exactly right. Is you just have to dive in and do something. I mean, you have to do anything, because that's another thing I've learned along the way is I just learned this recently for myself, because I've always done this. It's like, I was always trying to make forever decisions. It's like, if I'm going to do this, or if I'm going to launch a website, or I'm going to do a video series, like I'm going to do it forever. And that makes no sense. Like, you just do it until it doesn't work for you anymore, and then you do the next thing. You know, it's the same if you go into a job, or if you start a specific diet or anything like that. You just do it until it doesn't work for you. And so
I love that. I love that.
You just don't have to make
approach.
those forever decisions.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times, I mean, I know I've done this too, just put a lot of pressure on myself to think, oh my gosh, this is going to be around for the rest of my life. So I got to I got to make sure that I'm making the right decision here, when that is just not the case.
Exactly.
Great
I was thinking recently about starting a local group here in town, kind of with the Go Fire Yourself theme, and getting some business owners together that want to quit their day job. And I was like, oh, do I want to do that forever? And I was like, why does it matter? What if I do it for a year and it's awesome and people get something out of it, and then I don't do it in 2015? So what? Like, you impact people and then you move on. So that's what I always think.
That's a great lesson. I love it. Everybody write that down. I'm writing it down again for myself. Yes, I'm writing it down again for myself, just because I always need to remind myself, you know, kind of as a perfectionist.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. So, so transitioning from, you know, health coaching to finding your love and your desire for working with business people around kind of a business coaching aspect, and creating Go Fire Yourself, where you are now. That's, I mean, I guess that's a pretty clean thing to understand, and clean progression. But you've, you know, as far as what you've got today, which is, from my perspective, you got a great online presence and online business, and you used to have a retail brick and mortar business. What are some of the biggest, like, key differences for you between those two models?
That's a really great question, because I think for me, one of the reasons at the retail store, I said there were a couple of reasons that it didn't work out for me, and one of them was that when I had quit my corporate job, what I wanted to do was create this life of freedom. I wanted to be able to set my own schedule, and I wanted to be able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And I love working. I love working on my own stuff, so that's not the problem, but I wanted to be able to work when I wanted to work. And I opened this retail store, which, as I said, played to a ton of my strengths. I was really good at it, but I had to be there every day at the same time. And you're not only there during business hours helping people, I mean, you're there before to get everything ready and to work, and you're there after. And so I just created this other job for myself. And I was like, well, this isn't the life of freedom that I want to live here. And so I went into the health coaching thinking, okay, lower overhead, you know, this is going to be great. And I can set my own schedule. True. And that worked out pretty well. I like working with people one-on-one, but still, you got to show up and you got to be there. And if you want to make more money, you have to sit in a chair and talk to somebody more often. And I was like, well, you know, I want to make more money, and I want to have unlimited potential to the money that I make. And when you just do that dollars per hour work, that doesn't work. So then years later, you know, I'm settling from the retail store. Now I'm settling on this online business, and I'm like, yes, like, this is it for me, because I can work when I want to work. I don't have to. I do business coaching, but it's on a higher level, so I don't have to sit in the chair and talk to people as often. And I still get to have the lifestyle that I want. I get to have the freedom that I want. I get to do what I want. And I'm pretty introverted. I like to be alone a lot of the time. So it's just a really good fit for me, because I get to spend my days writing and reading things and podcasting and talking to cool people like you. And that's just a perfect fit for me. So those are some of the differences for me between the two different businesses.
Got it. Those are big differences. And, you know, honestly, differences that you would have never been able to to realize unless you would have started and done it. So it sounds like you're in a much better fitting position right now, and the direction that you're going.
It's definitely the case. Yeah, and that's not true. And I want to say that's not true for everybody. Like, not everybody might like to sit at home and write and podcast. That's not the path for everybody. A lot of people need to be out there. They need to be interacting with people. And a retail store might be perfect for the right person. It just wasn't perfect for me. And having all that overhead that I had back then, I don't have that now. So I can make decisions and I can make choices that don't really impact my budget as much as when I was running an actual brick and mortar store.
Okay, great insight. So let me ask you this: what have you done differently that you believe sets you apart?
I think that's such a great question. And when I think about it, when I first started Go Fire Yourself, I had the idea of what it would be. I mean, it's called Go Fire Yourself. I mean, that's a pretty edgy name.
Yes,
it is. And when I first started it, I've been doing it for a while now. I really, I have kind of an edgy tone. I like to write kind of sarcastic, funny, edgy stuff. But I really wasn't doing that very much. And what I noticed, and this happened a couple of weeks ago, I just woke up one day and I was like, I hate it. I hate the website. I hate the podcast. I hate it because it didn't represent what I had originally set out to do, and it didn't back up the Go Fire Yourself name, and it was getting less edgy. And so I just, that weekend I just totally redid the website, and I tried to make it more fun and more edgy and more for people that are just like, no, I am not going to accept this life. This is not. We're not singing Kumbaya here. This is serious. And so I redesigned it. I'm still working on kind of getting the podcast, doing a different intro for that, making it more fun and edgy. And I stopped writing for SEO. That's something I was doing in the beginning, is I was writing for SEO, and it worked. I mean, I was getting traffic from that, from Google, but I don't think I was really connecting with people. And so what I feel like helps me stand apart, at least in these last couple of weeks that I've been doing it, is really trying to be, and I hate to say this keyword, but trying to be transparent, try not to sugarcoat things, trying to be like, this is how it is, and it's not always going to be pretty, and it's not always going to be perfect, but if you take the action, and if you take consistent action, your life will work out. This will work out for you. And saying this in a way that's fun, that's edgy, that connects with people, and it's not just some bland, dry, white toast of a website. So that's the goal. And I think, too, that reminded me is, I'm trying to be more me. And I'm just, the more, I can be me, and the more I can put my personality into it, the more I can make it stand out. And for some reason, I wasn't doing that in the way I felt I should be. So I've changed all that up, and I'm really trying to be more me, be Laurel 2.0, put myself in there and show people that I've done it and I'm not perfect and it's still worked out so that they can do it too.
Yeah, I love that. And that's honestly, I probably saw your website. I don't know if I saw it before you made any changes or not, but, I loved it. I really resonated with it because it was a very clear message. I think one of the first things I saw two things. I saw the picture that, the viewers can see right now, which is a picture of you, and it says, "Hello, my name is," and Laurel is crossed out, and written underneath it is "the boss." I love that. And then right underneath that, there's some words that say, "Stop putting your life on hold. Let's chat, you and me." And it's just, I think the messaging is pretty clear, and it's great, and it's bold. To be honest, it's bold. It's right in your face, and it says, "Hey, you know what? If you're stuck in a job that you hate and you don't like, Jesus, when are you gonna change that up? When are you gonna switch and kind of wake up?" So your website's a great wake up call. I love what you've done, and I think it's a strong message. So congratulations. From my perspective, it's fantastic.
Well, thanks. Well, that's what I'm trying to communicate to people, is that if you have a gift, or if you have a talent, or if you want to run this business, you have to do it. Shame on you if you don't go and make an effort. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. I'm not saying there's a perfect time, but make an effort. Go out and do it. Don't I wasted a couple years being miserable, but I'm not going to do that again. and there's a way to get out of it, and you can do it based on what you want and how you want to live your life, and that's going to be different than how I want to live my life, but still you got to take the action. So that's hopefully, it sounds like that's what you got from the website and what other people are getting, so that's definitely what I'm trying to get across here.
Great. I love that. That's a challenge for me, and I think it's a challenge for a lot of people, is getting kind of over that hurdle of like really focusing in on what is the message, and then communicating in a way that's really honestly just, it's honest, it's authentic, it's who I am. And you're kind of over that hurdle, it appears, and that's it's a big goal for me personally to aim for that. I don't know, just kind of sweet spot of connecting with people from who I really am. So appreciate you sharing that. Let me ask you this: what would you say? What change or decision more than any other has allowed you to financially take your business to the next level?
Well, I think for me, it's not just saying there's only one way I'm going to make money.
Okay.
And I know that sounds dumb, but I've done that in the past, especially when I was a health coach. I said, I am a health coach, 100%. This is the only way I'm going to make income and money. And when I have tons of talent, and people would come to me for other things, like I've done some freelance graphic design, web design, stuff like that. People would come to me for that and offer me money. And I'm like, no, I only do health coaching. Yeah. And when you're an entrepreneur, again, I'm going to say this is my phrase of the day, like, things aren't perfect. Like, yeah. I mean, if you're making a killing or if you're internet famous or whatever, that's fantastic. And if you can do one thing, that's fantastic. But what really helped me was knowing or understanding, for me, like, I don't just have to take money for one thing that I do. Like, I have a photography business now that I do in Nashville. That's kind of my local thing and my creative outlet. I've always done photography. So, that's a way I get money. I do coaching. I've done some freelance design. I've helped someone set up their website and their membership site. And I'm just kind of open to that stuff because I like doing all of it. And again, it goes back to, like, I'm not making a forever decision to do some freelance design here and there, but it's something that's going to just help me be me and do what I want to do. And right now I'm putting a lot of energy into writing my book. So I'm like, the book that's going to go with this website. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to do what I can do now, and whatever comes my way, I'm going to go for it, as long as it doesn't totally distract me. Yeah. And that's what's helped me along the way, is just being open to different streams of income, and knowing also that going forward, I'm going to set myself up not just to be a dollars per hour person and be able to have, as I said, I'm working on the book, I'm going to have courses that are online, and having both the active and the passive income streams, so that you're always kind of filling that funnel of money that's coming to you.
Okay, that's great. That's I think there's endless thoughts on whether you should, like, focus in on only one thing or do everything to your heart's desire. And I think the reality is there's something that fits for each of us as individuals. And I love how, you've embraced the things that work best for you and that you really enjoy. I mean, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take the things that you enjoy and that you can earn an income from and kind of put that collage together of those things that you have fun doing and people want to pay you for?
And I definitely agree, but at the same time, I also, you said, it's different for everybody, and no one wants to be all over the map. I mean, if you're all over the map, like, and you don't have one thing going, like, that's probably not a good idea. But I have, my blog and podcast going. I'm working on the book for that, and that's like top priority. Sure. And then the other things come underneath that, but that doesn't, like, I wouldn't let them take away from my top goal. So I feel like you do, if you're going that route, you do need to have that one focus and kind of the long-term goal, and then the other things can fill in the cracks along the way.
Good point. I heard a coach a few weeks ago talk about, like, making sure that you're very clear on what the nucleus is for your business. And that can change and shift over time. But for you, it sounds like for now the nucleus is your podcast and your blog. And it sounds like you're writing a book too. And then you filled in some other things around those.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Is I think you have to have kind of that long-term plan, but then do what makes sense in the
Yeah.
meantime, but
Yeah.
stay focused on that plan.
Great. Fantastic. Okay. So let me ask you another question. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time, what would you do differently?
Michael, how much time do we have here? I got a lot here. Well, I think a couple things that came to mind are work on the things that directly make me money. This was something that, again, I don't know why I have a learning curve on things like this, but when I was running my retail store, I was working all the time. Again, I love to work, so that wasn't the issue, but I
Yeah.
was working on things that I felt like were important, but that weren't directly bringing money into the retail store. For instance, I would, I had a couple employees, but I'd be out there helping the customers, and which can lead obviously to making money, but I would redo the window displays. I would work on the design of the store. I would spend a lot of time ordering the clothing and going to market and designing the business cards and doing the website and Facebooking and trying to do all this stuff. And it just really wasn't, none of it was marketing. Like, so I was working all the time, all day long, 6 days a week, and I wasn't working on marketing.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that, and if I could go back and do it differently, I would do marketing first and foremost. I mean,
Okay.
because that you can have the greatest business on the planet, the greatest retail store, the greatest service, the greatest product, but if no one knows about it, you're going to be that tree that falls in the forest with no one around. Because just because you build it doesn't mean they'll come.
Yeah.
That's something I keep learning.
Yeah.
So you have to be that marketer first and foremost. So that's definitely one thing that I would do differently. I
Okay.
would also, knowing what I know now about the online business, I would really have set up my website for all of my businesses to be more of a sales tool and a marketing tool and not just kind of an informative piece. And that's
Yeah.
something I really didn't do. I didn't have, for my previous businesses, I didn't have a mailing list for people to sign up. My health coaching I did, but I wasn't pushing it really hard. And I didn't have really good copy on my websites. I just really wasn't using it as a tool. And I would have gone back and done that differently, because if you have a website that converts people at least to your mailing list, or that pre-sells them on your product, or sells them on your product, or pre-sells them on your service, or something like that, that can make a huge difference to you, and something that I didn't really clue in until a couple years back. So those are two things that I would have done much differently if I could do it again.
Okay. Make marketing first and leverage your website as a marketing tool. Those are phenomenal things that anyone who's thinking about starting a business, or if you've already started one, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's something that I'm in the process of doing myself. So great advice. What about what do you see, or have you found are some of the biggest mistakes that novices make, so newbies, to creating a business on the side or just creating a business period? What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making with specifically online businesses, I guess, since that's where your focus is right now?
Yeah, online businesses are interesting because it is a completely different beast than a brick and mortar business. And that's when I got into this world. It was just kind of like a completely different experience. I thought I knew so much about business and what to do and how to do it and all that stuff. And I kind of had to relearn everything for an online business. But I think some things are kind of parallels.
Okay.
And a couple mistakes that I see newbies making are, number one, I think, is not defining your target market.
Yeah.
And I know a couple people off the top of my head, I'm not going to mention them, but they're doing that, is you put up a website or an online business and you don't know who you're selling to. And so how in the world are you going to create the right products or write the copy on your website to hit the emotional tags or do anything if you don't know who you're speaking to? I mean, for me, I can be edgy and I can be sarcastic and I can use the occasional cuss word because my audience are those people. They're kind of younger people that aren't going to be offended by that and that connect with that. But if I was speaking to an older audience, maybe of moms like that their kids went to school and they wanted to get back into business or something like that, that wouldn't be the right language to use with them.
Yeah.
So you have to know who your target market is.
Okay.
And it sounds a little odd, like, okay, well, if I narrow down who I'm talking to, well, then I'm not going to have as many people to sell to. But that's not how it is. I mean, you want to be a big fish in a small pond. Like the narrower you can get your niche market, the people you're talking to, the more you're going to stand out, and the more those people are going to come to you and be like, hell yes, this is what I need. Like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being like, yeah, I talk about personal development to anybody who wants to develop themselves. Well, nobody's going to come to your website and connect with that. And I know not all online businesses are kind of expert-based businesses, but no matter what your business is, whether you have a product or you have a service, like, you have to know who you're speaking to and who you're selling to. Otherwise, you're going to waste your time, you're going to waste your advertising dollars, and you're going to alienate a lot of people. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, that's good. And that's a big one because I, run across a lot of websites. And I really, for myself, when I look at a website, because I have one now, I'm always, kind of just sitting back and figuring out what's my first impression of that site. And is it vague, or is it, how quickly can I attach to what that site's about? And, I think it's first of all, you're right. It's so important to nail that as early on as possible, to really define that market, know them well. And I love what you said about being a big fish in a small pond. I think that's brilliant.
Well, I think it's so important because, it's scary. It's scary to narrow down who you're speaking to and who you want to connect with. But when you do, it'll really, really end up working out for you. And also another thing that I wanted to mention when it comes to online businesses, especially expert websites or podcast websites or stuff like that, is having too many choices for your audience. This is something that bugs me. Is I go on somebody's website, and even if they have a strong message, there are too many choices. Like, I don't know what the people want me to do. They want me to like them on Facebook or follow them on Twitter or check out their podcast or sign up for their email list. Like, I'm just not quite sure what to do. And because I have to make a choice out of like 10 options, I don't make any choice because I don't, like, that's too much. I'm just browsing the web. So I recommend for newbies, for anybody, is really narrowing it down and figuring out, okay, what is it? How do I enter a person into my sales funnel? I think that's first. If you want to do that through Facebook, great. If you want to do it through having them sign up for your email list, which I would recommend going that route, make it really clear. Yeah. And make it clear, one, what you kind of said is like you go to their website, like make it clear what your website's about. That's step one. But then make it clear what you want somebody to do. And that's the only way you're going to get people to stick around. You're going to get them to take action. Give them one choice. Don't give them 10 choices. And that's really going to help. That's going to help you in the end, no matter what you want to. You might not have to sell them on something right away. I wouldn't recommend that, but just get them in your sales funnel so that down the line you're still connected with them and able to sell to them. So keep the end in mind with that when you're setting up the design of your website and getting people to take action.
Love it. And actually, this ties in so perfectly because we've got your website up here on the visual part of the show today. And so people can see, right at the very top, there's one thing to do. It's very obvious. If you could leave work today and never have to go back, you ask that question, and then there's, if someone wants to get a free copy of your Income Switch book, then there it is. I actually downloaded that. I've got it waiting to read it. I downloaded it, I think, yesterday. So I'm looking forward to that. But it's obvious. It's like, here's what you do. You go to the website, the message resonates, here you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And some people are going to go on there and the message is not going to resonate with them and they're not going to do that. And that's fine. And that's kind of what you want.
That's kind of the point.
If you want your tribe, that's the point. You want your tribe to connect with you and love you as much as you love them and want to help them. And the people that don't, like, okay, you figured out in 2 seconds this isn't for you, and you've moved on to something that is for you and something that can help you. And that's what it's all about. Being really clear. And I still have social links on there. There's still buttons you can click on. Like, don't get me wrong, you don't have to have like that old school sales page with like just one button or anything like that. But just keep it simple. I mean, you notice on there, I probably only have 5 menu options and none of them have drop downs.
Yep.
I mean, that's deliberate because I don't want people sifting through a ton of stuff. Like, you learn about me, you can work with me, you can contact me, or you can read the blog or listen to podcasts. Like, it's pretty simple. So just keep it really simple. I say your audience they don't have a lot of time and they're not going to invest a lot of time until they're really connected with you down the road. So kind of to have that introduction, like, I'd say keep it simple. That's just my opinion there.
Good, great. Straightforward, to the point. This is, I love this because, you're giving practical tips here. This is, there's a lot of information you're providing that's kind of a case study, especially since we've got your website up here and we can actually see, what you're talking about. So this is great. All right, I want to move on to a topic that's near and dear to the hearts of, I'll say, everyone, and I don't think that's a stretch. But what would you say to people that are in a corporate job and they want to start a business on the side, but they're just afraid? They're afraid of failure, what others might think. They're afraid to do something out of the norm. Laurel, what advice would you give to people in that situation?
I'd say first that fear is not something to be really concerned about. I mean, fear, of course you're afraid. I mean, that's just a part of it. And I'd say that fear is your companion along this journey and not really your enemy. So I'd say go ahead and embrace it. I mean, it's just going to be there. And you just need to know that it's just a part of the journey. And if fear wouldn't come up if you weren't trying to do something great. I mean, if you're trying to... Well, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to if I go and sit on the couch tonight and watch a TV show, am I going to have any fear? No. I mean, there's nothing scary about that because I'm not doing anything that betters myself. I'm not doing anything that betters the world. Yeah. And when you try to get out and put your true self out there and follow your dreams, like, you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and you're going to have that fear. So I say if that fear comes up for you, yes, like, you are going in the right direction. Thank God Almighty you are. Because if you were just staying in your comfort zone, well, you wouldn't feel that fear. So when that fear comes up, say, oh, great, okay, I'm on the right path. At least I'm doing something different. And when you do something different, you're going to get different results. And if that's something you're looking for, continue on that path. So I'd also say, you talked about failure, Michael.
Yeah.
Failure is one of my favorite things because, as you can tell, you could look at my life in a way that said, oh, well, she failed at the retail store, or she failed at health coaching, or whatever. And I don't see it like that. And I love the quote from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when he says, losers quit when they fail, winners fail until they succeed. And I love that because that really defines the resilience that people need to be an entrepreneur. And I find that the only way that you can fail is there are 2 ways. You can not start or you can quit. And that's it. Like, if you're in it and you don't get a result that you want, a quote unquote failure, that's just feedback. That's just part of the learning curve. And I always tell entrepreneurs, especially new ones, like, fail fast and fail often. And if you're afraid of that failure, you're not going to get anywhere. Like, you will fail. You might not fail in an entire business like I did, but you'll fail at some marketing campaign, or you'll fail at a speech you give. You'll fail at something. And good. I mean, you have to fail to get to where you want to go. So if you are having those fears of failure or fears of anything, just put yourself out there and make it happen and take the action necessary, and know that it's not always going to be pretty along the way, but that you're doing what's necessary to get the result that you want.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I read something, can't remember which, the other day, that talked about, for entrepreneurs, there's this statistic floating out around there of, whatever, 7 out of 10 businesses fail, or what. I can't remember if that's exactly it. And a lot of people, I think, hear that and they think, oh my God, why would I ever start my own business if 7 out of 10 fail? But here's the thing. You've started a business and the statistics would say that that first business failed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at what happened, the reality of the situation is you got better. You figured out what didn't work and you created something that worked better for you. So you're on like the third iteration now of this entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's so true for a lot of entrepreneurs. They start something and it may not be the fit. So they might intentionally shut it down because it's not working for them. The statistics would say that's a failure. But from the entrepreneur's perspective, it simply wasn't meeting their needs. So they changed directions and now they're doing something that's working even better for them.
Well, you're exactly right. Is from an outside point of view, yeah, maybe the business failed, but I didn't fail as a person, and I got closer to creating the lifestyle that I wanted because I know what I want, and I know that I'm going to find the right business when I was going through these transitions that was going to support that. Yeah. And that's not a failure. I kind of like to think of it as like my entrepreneurial education. You know, if I went back to college and got a master's degree in entrepreneurship, it would have cost the same amount as the retail store, and it would have been about 2 years and all of that. But I dove in and I did it, and I put the money and the time in, and I learned so much. And that's what you have to do. And failure, so what? And so what? Who cares? Like,
it happens.
You have to know, you have to do that. And I think it's more exciting when you do fail because you're going to learn 1,000% more from failing than you are from succeeding. Yeah, if I had just gone into my retail store and everything had gone swimmingly and perfect, would I be able to help a single entrepreneur these days? No. Like, there's just, I've been like, well, just do it. It just works. It's all happy and great. And people have been like, great, Laurel, I'll see you later. So you have to go through that. And you make your life what you want. And there's always that plan B. So if something doesn't work out, you tweak it, you try again, and it all comes together in the end.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Laurel, let me ask you this one. This is a good one. And I've recently just started asking this of people on my show. And it's, if you were to wake up tomorrow and everything's gone, your site's gone, your following's gone, your charm is gone. I don't think your charm is going to leave, but if it did, what are the first?
Do I do?
What are the first? What do you do? And I think you get where I'm going with this. There's a lot of people out there that have, like, they're starting from zero. And if we can take your perspective of someone who's been in the game for a few years, what are the first 3 steps that you take to start rebuilding?
Okay, first I want to say that question scares the hell out of me. So just put that out there. That's scary, but I get it. I get where you're coming from because I have rebuilt, and especially when you're starting from scratch, you have to build from scratch. And I think if I had to take 3 steps, it would be, first, I think I would call on my support system. I feel like entrepreneurs, we need a support system, whether it's in person or online or a mastermind group or a mentor or a supportive partner, or whatever that is. That would be my first route. I would reach out and get some help because going through something like that alone is scary.
Sure.
I mean, it's really scary, and there is support out there. If you don't have it, you can find it. But people, especially when you're coming out of a job and trying to build from scratch, like, people in your job aren't going to get it. They're going to think you're nuts. Like, you want to do what? 1 in 7 businesses fail, or 7 in 10 businesses fail, or whatever the statistic was. Why would you want to do that? Yeah. And you have to find the people that really get it. People like you, Michael, who are like, yeah, I get it. Like, I'm going to help you do this. Like, those are the people you need to surround yourself with. So that would be number 1. I'd surround myself with the people that I already have around me that are supporting me. And if I needed to find new people as well to keep that going, I would. The second thing is, I always like to, not everyone does this, but I always like to look at, is there a reason something happened to me? And that's more going back to if I lost everything, I like to look at what's the reason that happened. Yeah. And I don't think things in life are random. That's just my personal opinion. So I would look at it as like an opportunity to reevaluate what was going on, to reevaluate where I was going with my life. And look, if I wanted to rebuild a website, look at it as, would I do something differently? Can I make it better? Should I reach out to a different group of people? Something like that. just really honing into, is this a match for me? And if you're just starting out and you didn't lose everything and you're rebuilding, just looking at, is this life a match for me? Is this how, if this business is going really well and is exactly what I want it to be, does this match up with my ideal life and how I want to live? And for me, obviously that retail store and even the health coaching didn't really match up. So making sure that everything matches up. And I think everything happens for a reason. So looking at what is that reason, what is it trying to show me, where am I being guided to? I think that's something important. And 3, I would just do what I did before to rebuild it. I'd put up the WordPress site, I'd build it, I'd design it, I'd get on Twitter, I'd write guest posts, I'd interview people, I'd get connected, I'd just do all that all over again, which sounds really hard.
Something you'd rather not do or think about.
I know. So your question scares me. I'm thinking if I lost my mailing list, I'm like, oh, what would I do? So, but I understand the question, so I hope that was insightful.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So to kind of wrap things up here, one of the things that I love to do is have people get to know something unique about my guests. So I always ask this question as well. What is your current favorite hobby, or what's the most adventurous thing you've done in the past 6 months?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's see. Something that I did that was adventurous was I went to this ziplining adventure place near Nashville, and they had something that I just ended up loving. I didn't love it when I was doing it, but they had this 60-foot telephone pole type thing. It was a cedar tree, and all the limbs had been chopped off with this tiny little platform on the top. And you had to climb all the way up, and it's telephone pole height, so it's kind of wobbling when you get to the top. And you have to get up on this tiny little platform, which is about the size, maybe a little smaller than 2 of your feet together.
Oh my God.
And you're harnessed in. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like free falling or anything.
Yeah.
And so you get up there, and there's this bell that you have something like a little stick to hit it with, and you have to jump off this tiny little platform that's wobbling 60 feet in the air, and you have to hit this bell. And I was terrified to do this. Like, it doesn't sound that hard, but when you're up there and this is wobbling and you could fall, like, it's scary.
Yeah.
And so I got up there and I jumped off by some miracle, and I missed the bell. And I was so disappointed that I missed the bell, but I was shaking, so I didn't do it again. And then a couple months later, I had the opportunity at a different adventure place to do the same thing. And this is why getting out of your comfort zone is so great, because I was like, I am going to do that. I can do that. And I got up there and I climbed all the way up and I stood on this shaky pole and I rang that bell. And I was like, yes, this is how life is. If you just do one thing to get out of your comfort zone, the next time you do it, it's not as scary. Yeah. And so that was my little adventure as of late, of how I really got out of my comfort zone and did something a little bit different.
That was like more than an adventure. That was an adventure plus a life lesson all wrapped into the same thing.
It was.
That was great.
It was. Cool. It was scary, but now I'm like, anyone presents me with a pole and a stick and a bell, like, I will rock that.
You're like, so, I got this.
I got this. That's my skill now. I'll never be able to cash in on that skill.
All right, Laurel. What is up next for you? Tell us, what's the most new and exciting opportunity that's coming up for you and your business? And is there anything that you might want the listeners or viewers to know about?
Yeah, well, as I said, I'm writing a book to go with the blog and the podcast. So it's called Go Fire Yourself, obviously. Okay. And I'm really excited about it. I've rewritten the outline 3 times. I'm already 70,000 words in, and I'm trying to bring that fun, edgy tone that I've been talking about the whole time to this book, to give people like a step-by-step process of how to escape their job and build a life and a business that they want. So that's a really exciting project for me. I started at the end of last year, and I'm hoping to have that out by summertime. So that should be really exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a different type of project. Talk about long-term goals. I mean, you
Yeah.
sit and you write this thing for a couple hours a day, and nobody reads it, and nobody gives you feedback, but you have to keep going on it. And so it's been a really interesting time and a challenge and something that I'm learning a lot from. So that's what's coming up next for me, and it's taken a lot of energy and time. So that's if I'm not always on Twitter, that's where I am.
Okay, I love it. That's going to be a great book. I'm definitely going to check it out. So thanks for sharing. And as far as people getting in touch with you about any of your work or your coaching service or anything, I will link up under the show notes your website. And of course, you've got a contact form there that people can reach out to you. Anything else in terms of contacting you? Is that the way that you prefer, just through your website?
Yeah, that's great. And since you have the website up there, people can already see that they can download that ebook for free. It's a great ebook.
Yes.
It's really, I mean, if your crowd is online audience or online business people, like this is a really great resource guide to help you step by step get your online platform set up and all that good stuff. So I'd highly recommend getting that. And that kind of gets you into the Go Fire Yourself community and connected and meeting other like-minded people. So
Great. Okay. Super. Well, Laurel, thank you so much for being on the show today. You've given us so much wisdom and knowledge, and I really appreciate your time. Even though we didn't get to see your pretty face on the show today, we're seeing it on the website.
Prettier.
All right.
Michael, it has been such a pleasure to be here today. I just had a blast chatting with you, and I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, for everyone, if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Startup Sessions email list. And, just put your name in the email box there, your email address, and you can get the free weekly interviews delivered to your inbox. And all of these interviews are now offered on the Startup Sessions podcast as well. So you can download them from my site or go to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast. So thanks for watching and listening, everyone, and we'll see you next week on a brand new episode of the Startup Sessions. Take care.